I don't think it is at all irresponsible or wrong to say Georgia's offense took more than a step back in 2024. And going into 2025, there are a couple of things that I know we want to see from them to believe that this program is capable of winning a third national championship in the last 5 years. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year-round, and we are in the midst of spring football. And for some of us, this is about regrouping from the 2024 season, and for others, it's about building on the momentum that you establish in 2024. Georgia is somewhere in between those two because their record does not reflect the kind of offense that we saw from them or we expected from an 11-win team. Now, I have been critical, like many, of Georgia's wide receiver core because it was sorry. It was not any good, guys. Carson Beck wasn't the guy that he was in 2023, but again, they didn't have to be as bad offensively as they were in 2024. It's also on the scoreboard they took a step back. In 2023, the Georgia Bulldogs averaged 40.1 points per game. Okay, it's really good. Still wasn't good enough to win the SEC championship. In 2024, they averaged 31.5 points per game, and that was good enough to win the SEC championship, which means to tell you that the defense is still the defense, and Georgia is going to be a program that is built on the strengths of its head coach, which is recruiting to and calling outstanding defenses no matter who the opponent is and what their offense can do. I remember this vividly. Alabama ends up beating Georgia because the offense at Alabama found another gear with Jalen Milroe, and we got to see Ryan Williams have his coming out party. You knock off the #1 team in the country, but that game was back and forth, and Alabama felt like it should have been running away. Then Georgia felt like it should have been running away, and what do we got, right? We've got two of the better SEC programs of the last decade going at each other's necks. Georgia coming out on top at the end because Alabama's wheels just fell off as they were getting closer and closer to November. They lost to a 6-7 Oklahoma, which more or less knocked them out of the college football playoff, while Georgia fought their way into the SEC championship game and then beat what we thought was the best team in the SEC in Texas for the second time in 1 year. Now, the thing that I thought was also interesting about what Georgia was able to accomplish is as much as we've been critical of the wide receivers, and we should be, they've gotten a little bit better than the transfer portal. Noah Thomas coming in from Texas A&M, Zachariah Branch coming in from USC, a guy that had nearly 1,900 yards over the last 2 years in all-purpose from USC, and going to be a dynamic return guy and a deep threat down the field. It's their run game that I did not expect to see was so anemic in 2024. This is a program that averaged just 124.4 rush yards per game last season. That was next to dead last in the SEC in 2024. Normally, when you have a really good defense, you have a really great running team because you want to control the ball and you want to give your defense every opportunity to be fresh on the field, get you 3 and outs, and sit on it because you can't score in football unless you've got the ball. So if you never give the ball back and you limit the opportunities that the other team has to score, you're probably going to win more football games than you lose. The thing about Georgia, though, is finishing 11-3, you take a look at the losses that they sustained. We're talking about really good football teams, and only one of those teams that we thought was going to be really good, Alabama, didn't really live up to its hype, right? We're also talking about a Georgia team that is going into a transition year at quarterback. Carson Beck elected not to go in the NFL draft, but to transfer to Miami after Gunnar Stockton relieved him after he suffered an injury to his arm and really won them the football game late against Texas. But he did not look like the kind of guy that was ready to lead that program when they had to go face Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was able to pull out a win. The thing that I think Georgia fans would tell you is it wasn't easy for Notre Dame, and our defense is still our defense. They're going to have a lot of returners on that offensive line that are going to get better, and I think that they're going to have a better rushing attack than they did last year. However, I do think that Gunnar Stockton being able to throw the ball down the field is going to be a big part of this. It is a man that had been prolific in high school, breaking everybody's records, right? Breaking Trevor Lawrence's records, breaking Deshaun Watson's records. He's that guy in the state of Georgia, and he's been waiting his turn for this. And it feels like if he's the guy that we think he can be, sky's the limit, right? If the relationship between Gunnar Stockton and Mike Bobo is the one you think it is, yeah, that's a 3,000-yard passer, and you've got a really good rushing attack to buoy whatever passing attack you can muster, and then you know what Kirby Smart's defense is going to look like. That's the other thing that I would like to see more of as we get closer and closer to Georgia being one of the teams that is going to play a spring game. Does the defense simply reload? Because that's what the defense has done at Georgia year in and year out. It feels like every single year, no matter who's wearing the jersey, those guys know exactly what to do and how to do it and get it done on defense. Can you continue to depend on that in the SEC? Can you depend on Georgia being one of the best defenses in all of college football? We would like to say yes, right? But if the offense needs to take a little time to come into its own, you're going to need to lean on that defense a little bit more than even Georgia fans might want to early in the season until Gunnar Stockton finds his feet, Zachariah Branch finds his feet. But Lord help everybody if Georgia comes out guns a-blazing, able to put up 40 a game like they were in 2023 and what they were doing in 2022, because that's what you want, right? If you're a Georgia football fan, you want the program to look a lot like it did in 2021 and 2022 when Stetson Bennett was at quarterback. I think every quarterback since Stetson Bennett and every quarterback mostly before Stetson Bennett has been more talented than Stetson Bennett, and yet only one of those guys has gone back-to-back, right? That is also as much about him understanding what his job is in the offense and that his job is to stay out of the way of the defense. I would caution, though, for those fans that believe that Mike Bobo and Gunnar Stockton's relationship is the one that's going to really push this offense over the top, to take a step back. It's not always how it goes. It does go that way more often than not. I think about Lincoln Riley and the quarterbacks that he chooses to go with and him being the play caller. It could go like it did with Seth Littrell and Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma. And I'm going to continue to reference that because it's a five-star quarterback who is very, very happy with the offensive coordinator and had a relationship with him that was familial, right? Then the wheels come off early. The quarterback gets benched, giving away the ball on first down, and the offensive coordinator doesn't even make it through the halfway point of the season before he is fired. So we're going to take our time and see with this, because I know many Georgia fans are already upset with Mike Bobo and would love to see someone else calling the plays there. But the thing that I've always said is you were blessed with Todd Monken, right? Todd Monken came in having been a head coach and having been an offensive coordinator for a very long time and had a very good core principle when it came to working for Kirby Smart. And I love this because Kirby used this as a teaching moment for himself. He said, look, when you tell me that you want to see a play run or you want to see more of this or more of that on my offense, are you asking, telling, suggesting? Are you suggesting, you're telling? Okay? And that was interesting because if the head coach says do this, he's the boss, you're going to do what he tells you to do. But if it's a suggestion you can take on and you can dismiss without feeling as if you're undermining the head coach, that's important too. And it became clear that Kirby Smart needed to leave Todd Monken to Todd Monken. And that's worked for them. They won their championships. Todd Monken goes to the Baltimore Ravens, and he's been doing outstanding work with Lamar Jackson, who's been really, really great for his entire career. But that offense has also come a long way. I think you're looking for more Mike Bobo to go, hey, can you force the ball down the field? Or can you generate the kind of run game that we can be proud of, the one that we expect to run for 200 yards per game? Because this 124.4 ain't going to be cutting it in 2025. And I would make the argument that had they had the run game that they thought they were going to have, it wouldn't have been that big a deal that Gunnar Stockton couldn't force the ball down the field against Notre Dame. They'd be in a much better spot. Is Georgia ready to take a step back? No, nobody's ever ready to take a step back. But I do think they're going to go into this the same way they did last year. We are the kings of the SEC, right? We gave it up the 1 year against Alabama. We got that SEC championship back against the Texas team y'all told us was going to win a national championship. Texas, once again, looks like the front runner in the SEC with Arch Manning at quarterback. I don't see a whole lot of weaknesses on that Texas offense or defense. You're going to hear that all throughout this offseason. And Georgia's going to continue to say, okay, but when it comes November, check the standings, see where we are, and then we'll revisit this conversation. But you need to be able to run the football. You need to be able to throw the football down the field. And the Georgia defense continues to be what we expect it to be, then yeah, that's a national championship caliber program.